Hi everyone, it's Bethany here tonight to do a pilot Frixion pen and marker test. I've been using these pens for months, as long as I can remember in my planner at least, so most of 2014. And I love them, and I'm surprised it's taken me this long. I guess it just didn't really occur to me that people would want to see them. But that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm hoping that I've got enough light here for us to be able to see, and that my little setup here to try to make things a little bit more steady will work out. So it's going to be a little bit of shuffling of paper and pens and things like that, so bear with me. But if you've been curious, or if you want to see the different sizes and how they compare, that's what we're going to do tonight. So basically, there were, let me see, seven different, sorry, I can't speak, it's late, can you tell? 7 different pens or markers that I was talking about tonight. And let me see if I can zoom out a little bit, and we'll look at each one, and then I'll look specifically at what they do. So this one here is I just grabbed purple to kind of keep it, consistent. This one is the highlighter. This one is the marker. Then we have, I'm just going to go in order of like biggest to largest, I guess. This one is the 0.7, and it is a ballpoint and not a click style. As you can see, it has a cover. Then I have, that's the 7. Then I have the 0.5 in the click style, also a ballpoint. I don't know if you can see that end there. I have, this one will be more tricky to see. I have the 0.5 in needlepoint as well. Oh my goodness, trying to do this in the camera, looking through the camera is not going to happen. Okay, we'll just set that aside. I guess the cover, yeah, it does need to go on. It'll bug me if it's not. And then I have the 0.4 also in needlepoint. There. Whoop. And then I have the 3/8 slim, which is, I guess, a ballpoint, and also a click. But you'll notice, let's tell you this right off the bat, that the slims do not have, they're the only one, well, except for, I guess the markers don't have one either. The highlighter does, excuse me, but the slim and the marker do not have like a pen, I don't know what you call this thing, a clip, I guess. They don't have something to hold them into your pen loop. Plus they're super skinny, so I'm sure in just about any pen loop they would slide right through. That is my justification for having these 0.4s in this style, because when I was carrying, right now I'm using my zipper planner again, but before that I was carrying an open one, and I couldn't, these are my favorite, but I couldn't, oh, spoiler alert, these are my favorite, but I couldn't keep them in the pen loop, so they're fine in a zipper binder, right, because you can just zip around them, they won't fall out. But anyway, so that's just my little note about those. So let's get into looking at what they look like when you write with them. This part here, I wrote with the marker. And if you go over here, let's see if I can kind of move. You can see these are the colors of markers I have. Now I think there is another set with different colors, like lighter colors or something maybe. But anyway, this is like a basic set that I believe I got at Walmart. Now, they, oh, sorry, I'm like, why do I have so many? The bottom two are the highlighters. So we're just looking at the top. See if I can zoom in a little bit for you here. Okay, now the color that's least, I'm not sure what it's going to show up in the end result, but right now in my screen, the colors are looking much deeper than they actually, are. Like that black looks quite as an acceptable black color to me through the screen. However, it is really like a faint black, and the same with the red. You can kind of see that it's not a nice true red on there, but it looks even better on my screen. Now, like I said, I don't know what it'll look like on your monitor, but that was going to be my one thing about the markers is I do find they are a little bit washed out. The blue, it's funny, the pink, the blue, and the purple are probably the best of the three. The other ones are much more muted. However, that might be okay. Like, they're not bad. They don't look like necessarily like a marker that's about to wear out or anything. But if you're looking for a true vibrant color, you might be disappointed. These are the highlighters that I have. I have them just in the purple and the blue. And they have, I guess I didn't really show you. They've got a pretty small tip on the end. We'll look at, I did a little bit of highlighting practice on the other side, but yeah, it's quite a small little tip there. Okay, moving on. I tried to come up with a way to do this so that you would be able to see the comparison. Let me zoom out just a little tiny bit. I don't know that it's really going to show up necessarily, and it's kind of one of these things that the real difference that you're going to find is the feel of the pen as you're writing with it, okay? And that what was interesting is I found it wasn't even really that consistent. So these two columns here, as you can see, are the 05 needle point and the 05 click, and the click is a ballpoint. I was expecting these to feel, or these to be, or to feel a bit thicker. Just from my general perceptions when I use them, I was expecting the needle point to feel a little bit lighter. Now, like I said, when you actually look, I'm not sure that you would necessarily be able to tell, or it's not super consistent. Like, for example, the pink almost looks a bit thicker than this pink, but this green looks a bit, like I didn't find, and even when I was writing, I found the feel of them, the needle point weren't all more scratchy than the ballpoint. So anyway, I would say that really these are pretty interchangeable in terms of both size of the letter that you were going to get out of it, and the feel on the paper were very comparable. Now, the paper I've used here, I'm not 100% sure. It's not regular copy paper. I'm going to guess that it's about a 28 pound. It's a slightly thicker paper. Oh, I didn't even look, but I'm assuming there's no bleed through. You can see if you hold it up to the light, you can see through, but having it down, there's a little bit of a ghost from the highlighter, actually, and the marker. I didn't actually really look. But anyway, nothing like substantial by any means. Okay. Then this one over here, what I compared was the 04 needle and the 3/8 slim, because these are the two closest things in terms of needlepoint versus ballpoint. And I do find, if you're looking for it. Now, if you were just, saw a line of text on a page, I'm not sure that you could look and go, oh, that was obviously the, one or the other. But I do find if I'm looking between the two, I do feel like I can see a tiny bit of a difference. I do feel like this is just a tiny bit of a finer line. But like I said, that also could just be in my head. Oh, the green here, I forgot that my green is actually just not working. It's worn out or something. So that's why it's not there. Yeah, and then we'll see that in a second. The part I won't talk about that now. Okay, then we get over to the 07, and this is where there's like a huge obvious difference, right? Oops, sorry. So the 07 ballpoint is a much heavier line. If you're looking for vibrant color and you're not trying to get a nice tiny little text, then the 07 is probably the way that you want to go. Even between the 07, if I can back out a bit more here, and if you can kind of see, well, you'll see here in a second, actually, I guess I got it down here. So what I did here was just to kind of make it easier to compare them all, I've just put them a little bit closer. So you can see the 07 versus the 05, you can definitely see it's darker. And then once you get into these, it's a bit harder, except for the fact that the purple, and this is what I almost said up there, the purple here is a totally different shade of purple. The other ones are very, very similar. They certainly feel like the exact same ink, just through a different point. Whereas this purple is a totally different shade of purple. I don't even know, I'm not good with my color names, but these ones I consider like a nice true purple, and this one is definitely more of a pinky purple color. Okay, so that, yeah, so that kind of shows you, and again, like when I get into these, if I was trying to, now except the fact that this is a different color, but if I used, I guess, a color that was truer through all three, I feel like right now when I look, I can see the difference here between these two, but I have a feeling if I just saw it written out, I wouldn't be able to say, oh, that's obviously, you know, 04 or whatever. So, okay, so let's look at the two things over here I wanted to look at was the erasability of the markers. The pen erasability I find is pretty, it's pretty good. It depends on the paper, I find, more than anything, I think. So, and yeah, so I guess in terms of how clean of an erase you're going to get, I find it's more about the paper than the inks necessarily, because I've had sometimes where it's like you really can't tell there was ever anything there, and other times where it kind of goes, it kind of actually changes the texture of the paper a little bit, and yeah, so you can kind of see here, right? This one you can see the ghost, right, of where it's kind of drawn, the eraser has drawn the ink and kind of smudged on the page. Maybe this wasn't as dry as it could be. I'm not really sure. This is the highlighter that I was showing by itself, how it erased. And then I showed, I don't use the highlighters a whole lot because one, I find that they're actually kind of dark. Probably, and this was actually an interesting, I wanted to kind of see this. I've never done this comparison before. I wanted to see how it was going to work out. Because I'm always writing with Frixion, I wondered whether there would be a difference. See how it really, now it wasn't as bad when I did it the second time over here. It stayed a little bit darker, but see the difference between the darkness of the Frixion up here and the high text C here. This was definitely faded when I highlighted. It was much darker before I highlighted, and I found it really changed the you know, it really muted the ink. Whereas this, I found that the black stayed nice and true. And so this, I don't find, even though this color, the purple here almost seems darker than up here, the text stayed so true that it doesn't bother me quite as much. But I wanted to look over here at how well it erased. Now, like I said, when this one, the Frixion is still definitely more faint. It looks darker in my view screen here, so we'll see what happens on your monitors. But in real life, it did certainly fade, you know, lighten the text a little bit. But it also erased quite well. I was kind of impressed. And this really impressed me too. I mean, I guess I didn't know what else to expect, but I think because I erased this one and both disappeared, I almost expected both to disappear. So the fact that the ink stayed behind without any real, you know, it didn't smudge that or in any way. I mean, obviously I didn't expect it to erase it. Well, I did for the 2 seconds that I forgot that it wasn't erasable, but knowing that it's not erasable, it wouldn't, but I thought it might smudge it or, you know, anyway, I thought it might just damage it and somehow. So I was impressed with that. And the only other thing to show, I guess, is this. Let's see if I can kind of zoom in here. The erasing of the marker is, it's certainly passable. I'm not sure. You're probably not seeing it super well. Let me see here. If I turn on the light, it doesn't really make any difference, I don't think, in terms of what you can see. So I'm going to turn it back off again. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, not as clean. I can feel a difference on the paper, like it's pulled the paper, the surface of the paper a bit. And it's definitely left a grayish kind of tinge through the middle there. So erasing marker is more one of those, like, you know, if you absolutely had to, now this is also big, you know, if you were, you know, it's a big area, and if you were coloring over it, let's see, I guess I don't have my green one. See if I can find it easily here. See if I were to try to, let's say I didn't want to do, if I wanted to just I can feel it, and you can kind of see right there, how dark. You can tell that the texture of the paper has changed underneath of it. So in terms of using it, if you've colored a big space, okay, sorry about that. I was trying to zoom out and I turned it off, but it was probably good because if I get too long, then my camera doesn't or my phone doesn't like to give up the video. So as I was saying, coloring over is definitely not going to work very well with this. In terms of if you were just writing with it, so if I'm just going to write test, I usually give things a second. I don't know about you guys, but I usually give them a second just to dry. I find if you go too quickly and the ink is still dry, you'll just end up smudging it all over the place. Okay, it has, I can feel it on the paper. And let's see if I tried to, yeah, and if you try to write over, I mean, it's fine, but it certainly isn't perfect. But, you know, I guess it's, you're kind of expecting a lot from a marker to be able to erase and then write perfectly over top of it. It's certainly better than, you know, not being able to erase it at all, I suppose. Or trying to write over a marker, trying to write a marker over like a whiteout or something like that, you know, would probably not work at all. So anyway, that is our Pilot Frixion pen and marker test. I guess I mentioned at the first that these slims are my favorite. I like a really fine line. I find that, especially because I use a personal size and I like to write in small spaces, I do find a difference in terms of how small you can write and still have the letters really nicely defined. The other thing I was going to say, and this surprised me, is I have a calendar, excuse me, a wall calendar that is it's a very glossy page. If you can picture what I mean, like the very smooth, shiny, slippery paper. And when I had to guess which pens to use on it, I would have assumed that these ones, the 07, would work better because it's a bigger, you know, a bigger point and more ink and everything like that. These barely work at all. I was so surprised. These barely worked at all on that. Like seriously, like you could, if you had to be able to write something, you'd be able to get enough of it onto the page that you could probably tell later on what you had said. These ones work perfectly. Couldn't believe the difference. So if you're trying to write on something a little bit shiny and you're finding these ones don't work, maybe you could try the 05. Anyway, that's it. So this has been much longer than I expected, but aren't they always? Anyway, I hope that you have enjoyed this little trip through Frixion pendum here. And if you have any other questions about the Frixions, let me know. If you have a favorite, I'd love to hear which size is your favorite. And let's just take one last look at all the different things here. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Bye.